Opening and saving a document. Hello dear friends, we continue to conquer the peaks of the Photoshop software, and today we will talk about how to open a file and how it can be saved. Go to the Photoshop, go to the File menu and select Open, or the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+O. At the same time, we can, as usual, select the folder we need and select the necessary files. If we want to open several files at once, then we can select one, hold down the Ctrl key, select one more and click Open. And in this case, we'll open several files at once. As you can see, they all appeared in tabs. But we can change their viewing in the same way. If you remember, we had a lesson in which we considered the possibility of ordering, arrange and choose the location that seems to us more relevant and convenient for the current moment. Well, for example, I will choose Mosaic, and so it opened for me in this way. If I want to go back to the previous viewing option, then I select the Arrange and combine everything in Tabs window. Here everything is back as it was. It was such a small digression, a reminder. The next possibility of opening is using the Open As option, or the keyboard shortcut Alt+Shift+Ctrl+O. Why is this necessary? Sometimes the Photoshop software cannot independently determine the file format. Well, for example, this can happen when transferring a file between two operating systems. If before that, for example, you worked on a Mac system, when you will try to open the same file in Windows, an incorrect indication of the file format may occur, and in such cases, it is just necessary to choose the correct format for opening such a file. Let's see what it looks like. I click Open As, and here I have an additional dialog box in which you can just choose the format in which you want to open the file. This can also be useful if by some mistake you saved a file in the wrong format and now you want to open it the way it should have been. For example, a file that should be in PSD format, we will talk about it in a few minutes, you saved in a GIF format, and your work can no longer be continued in this way, and you need to return the correct format. Then, from the suggested list, you can choose the format that you need now, and of course, click Open. And another option for opening is using an additional module called Bridge. Let's see how it works. We select File and select Bridge Overview, or Alt+Ctrl+O. At the same time, we have an additional module loaded. Here I have it. Now I will place it so that it can be seen. And in this module, you can select files to view and in order to work with them somehow in the future. For example, I select the local disk D and select the folder I need. So I choose a folder in which I can view and select images. But this is somewhat more convenient than the GITs, because let's say I can look at each image more closely. That is, I can select them more preciously by viewing the preview on a large scale. In addition, in the software, you can also edit keywords, tags, create an image rating, perform batch processing. That is, the same action can be applied to many photos at once. In general, the Bridge program, which means bridge in translation, is very useful, and we will certainly talk about its other functions in the following lessons. And now let's just talk about how can we open the file we need. For example, I like this photo. I will click on it twice, and here it opens in Photoshop. This software is especially useful, of course, for photographers who constantly have to process and view a large number of photos. And now let's talk about what file formats are and how to save them. In fact, Photoshop offers 22 file formats for saving your work. But today we will talk only about the most basic of them, which are used most often. And in the absolute majority of cases, knowing these formats or using them will be absolutely enough. We will begin our consideration of these formats with the PSD format. This is the native format of Photoshop, in which all the work is done. And let's go to the Photoshop software to look at a specific example of what this file is. So I opened a file in Photoshop in this format, and let's see what its features are. The fact is that it is in this format that you still have an ability to edit your image. You can go back a few steps, or for example, move objects in your image as you need. Well, for example, we want to move this basket somewhere else. We can take it and do it. At the same time, the rest of the objects remain in its place. We can make some objects invisible. Here, the leaf has disappeared, and there is a lot more that we can do. And since the creative process can be quite long, you can consider different options. Then, by saving the file in this format, you can always go back in the process of your creativity and somehow edit it, change something, edit something. This is the best option to save the work in the progress, while it is not finished yet, while you are still working on it, or if you want to save it for the future in order to change something later, then in this case the PSD format will be the best choice. But sooner or later there comes a time when your work is completed and it's worth showing it to the world. And in this case the TIFF or JPEG formats will be useful to you. Let's start with the JPEG format. This is the most common format in which we usually see all the images on the web. Unlike PSD, it's available for viewing not only in Photoshop, but also in all programs for viewing graphic files. And it is in this format that we see all the images that we meet on social networks. It is in this format that most our photos are stored. This is really the most common format, but it has both its advantages and disadvantages. As I have already said, the advantage of its accessibility and the ability to view it in almost any program for viewing graphic files. But the disadvantage is that when saving in this format, compression occurs, and the compression method is based on the fact that the colors of adjacent pixels are averaged. Thus, we lose some of the semitones, some of the subtle nuances, shades, and for a large professional work, this can be very significant, although this loss of quality may be visible to the naked eye. The advantage of files in this format is their low weight, the ability to easily place them on any resources, and in general, this is the most familiar format for us. Therefore, you just need to find a balance between the quality and the weight of the file, and everything will be fine. As a rule, we save in this format after we have completed our work in a file with the PSD format, unless, of course, we have other specific requirements for the file. Well, friends, let's move on to the next format. This is the TIFF format. TIFF is a format for professionals, as it is the gold standard for printed and printed products. The thing is that, unlike JPEG, when it is saved, there is no compression, or even if it happens, then without loss of quality, and all the nuances, semitones, shades are preserved. The quality remains completely unchanged. But such a file also weighs much more. Files in this format are usually used by graphic designers in their work. Well, we move on to the next format, and this is the PNG format. In order to make it convenient to get acquainted with this format, let's go back to the Photoshop software. By the way, taking this opportunity, I want to show you that you can see the name and format of the file here. And here, after the dot, the format of your file is shown. And as you can see, we now have a file open in PNG format. And what is the difference? We see a beer on such a background. This cell here means that this background is transparent. That is, in fact, the beer particularly lies on such a transparent film, and we can overlay it on any other background. Let's see how it can look like. Here, for example, we may have a beer on such a background, or on another, or such a background. That is, one day we can save some element on a transparent background, and then, in the future, use it in various works. It can be very convenient, and it is in this format that all the elements in scrapbooking kits are usually stored. And the last format that we have to consider is the GIF format. Yes, these are the same GIFs that we know well from the same social networks. It is this format that allows you to save animation, and of course is also very actively used in web design. Now let's see how saving in different formats in Photoshop directly takes place. To do this, we need to select File, select Save, and Save As. If I choose just Save, then the image is saved in the same form, with the same name and in the same format as it was. If I click Save As, then in this case we are asked to choose a format from the suggested list. The list is quite large. I can't even show it in its entirety here, and here we can choose the format that we need, that suits us in the situation, and save it in it. That's all for today. I am saying goodbye to you. See you soon. Aim School was with you.